finally they shifted to Gujarat. See, whether small car company or large car company, it is employment generation for the local people, and also investment program, employment generation program, and also that entire area will have been developed like anything else. But this type of discouragement should not take place in future. This type of discouragement should not take place in future. At present, now most of the countries which are already invested in China, they have rethink of diverting their investment from China to countries like Vietnam, countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and even South Korea, Taiwan. Now, for India, it's a great opportunity. We have enough workforce, cheap workforce we have enough market. We have more than 1,335 million population, very good market for their products. So we have to, if India government provide such an opportunity for these investors, we can easily attract them. When they are coming, we have to direct them to invest in those states, eastern states and northeastern states, so that these places also become industrially advanced, and this large scale migration of small boys from these areas, definitely we can stop them to come to this type of unfriendly states where and the employees are exploiting them without providing social security measures. And this is another suggestion. One more suggestion I would like to suggest that many times I have written about this one. Food processing industries in villages, food processing industries. Again, I would like to insist that every village in India, should have air-conditioned go-down facilities. Every village in India should have very large warehousing facilities. Every village in India should have food processing industries. What are maybe the food items, fruit items, flower items, vegetable items, milk, whatever they produce in their in those villages should be stored in air-conditioned rooms. If they are perishable items, they should be stored in very large large godowns. They should be stored, then processed and converted into value-added products. And these products should be transported through air-conditioned container facilities to the local market or to the nearby airport, so that the farmers can export these processed items to the foreign markets like Gulf countries or European Union or America or Australia, whatever it may be. If air-conditioned container facilities are created in the rural areas, if air-conditioned food process industry started in rural areas, and the container facilities are provided to the workers in the village areas, automatically no vegetable items, no flower items, no fruit items, no milk. We are producing 195 million metric tons of milk in India. During the COVID period, the milk vendors, the milk producers did not get any price for their product. I have seen in YouTube WhatsApp groups, they're simply pouring the milk on the canal, and because they cannot store it. Suppose if that type of storage, air-conditioned storage facilities are available in rural areas, this milk would have been stored there, converted into curd, converted into yogurt, converted into cheese, and once converted into yogurt and cheese, this can be stored for many months. At least we can export to Saudi countries. But unfortunately, this type of facilities were not there. The farmer did not get any benefit for that. So finally, they are simply pouring, dumping vegetables, fruit, everything outside. And even vegetable also they dumped some canals, some other places that I have noticed. The farmers did not get price because most of the items they are producing perishable items. And the consumer, they did not get price during the COVID period. We have no transport facilities. But to solve this problem, and I would like to suggest that every village should have air-conditioned go-down facilities, very large normal go-down facilities, food processing industries, and also to transport the these items, they need. Then this type of industries automatically 100 days or 150 days, farmers will get employment opportunities in the while doing cultivation, planting and harvesting and other activities. Another, remaining period, they will get employed opportunity in the processing industries. So their income is ensured. All the throughout 365 days, their income is assured by the government. Agriculture season, they work in the agriculture sector. During the off season, they work in the food processing industries. So their regular income is, ensured by the government. And one more thing, as you know very well, since the Mahatma Gandhi National Employment Guarantee Program is available in rural areas, that also can be assured. So the purchasing power of the rural area is always alive. They will not lose their purchasing power. Always they are getting money. Either they are getting money through Mahatma Gandhi National Employment Guarantee Program, or they while working in the farm they will get income, and while working in the food processing industry they will get income. So all the 365 days they get income. Then their purchasing power is always kept alive. It will not go down. This way, they will get employment opportunities. And one more aspect of this system is that if we create this type of food processing industry in rural areas, that will attract the educated younger generations, keep in the village itself. They will not think about going to urban areas or cities in search of employment opportunities. They will get enough employment opportunities within the village itself. They can do online marketing. They can do digital marketing for their food processing industry. And another example I can tell you, if you go to any hypermarket, supermarket in urban areas, and nearly 60-65% of the food processed items are coming from China only. See, we are the second largest producer of the food grains, fruits, flowers, everything in the world. More than 295 million tons of food grains we are producing. Nearly 314 million tons of horticulture items we are producing in India. But after this total production, nearly 30% of what we are producing in India simply wasted due to lack of godown facilities. See, we are the second largest producer of our China. We are not only food grains, fruits, flowers, everything. We are the second largest producer of all these items, but due to lack of godown facilities, 30% of what we are producing in India simply wasted due to lack of godown facilities, lack of storage facilities, lack of transport facilities. And on the other hand, in 2014, our Professor Rangarajan, he submitted a report. He was formed in 2011-12, but he submitted the report 2014 only. And that report, Professor Rangarajan has clearly pointed out that 29.5% of India's population are living below the poverty line. We just imagine that 29.5% of India's population at present, if you look at 1,335 million population, it may be more than India's equivalent that of India's independence population. Independent population only 330 million at the time of independence we had. Now, more than that population living in India without even single time food. So one side, this is the condition of poverty. Another side, we are wasting 30% of what we are producing in India due to lack of godown and processing facilities. So to balance these two items, what I would like to suggest is that Gandhi told India lives in villages. Before independence. After 73 years of independence, after implementation of 12 5-year plans, after 30 years of liberalization, privatization, globalization policies adopted by the government of India, now also 30% India lives in villages only, and without proper scientific development facility, without proper storage facilities, without proper industrialization facilities. Then when these facilities are not available, automatically their lifestyle will be in a poor condition. And Professor Rangarajan's statement is 100% correct. We have no other chance. Other than what I suggested, that food processing industries, storage facilities, air-conditioned facilities, and air-conditioned container facilities, then online marketing facilities for our farmers in rural areas. And the pathetic condition, I can tell you one simple example. Even at the time of COVID period, in Kerala government, the milk producers produce more than milk. Due to transport facilities, the milk consumption reduced in Kerala, but at the same time, milk production increased. Even Kerala government what happened? Kerala government has no place to store them. Finally, do you know what happened? Kerala government talked to Tamil Nadu government, and the surplus milk will be transported to Coimbatore for making powder or milk powder, something like that. Everybody knows. And the same is the case with flowers. Now, during the COVID period, most of the flower cultivators, farmers, the unorganized flower cultivators, they used to cultivate rose, they used to cultivate jasmine, they used to cultivate marigold, so many other flowers. But at present, no functions. The government function is not there, marriage function is not there, temple ceremonies are not there, or no other, extra, family, social, gatherings are not there. See, just imagine the people who are cultivating flowers for the last 7, 8 months. Finally, they lost everything. No transport facilities. Even transport facilities are there. Nobody is there to buy them. If we have cordon facilities in rural areas, if we have processing industries in rural areas, or these flowers would have been converted into perfumes or medicines and would have been stored for long period when world economy is opened, all these perfumes and medical items could have been could be exported to foreign countries. But even much the flower cultivators could have earned more money than through selling flowers. But we, because of lack of these facilities, and we made them, become very poor, and we are the responsible. Government, both central state governments will responsible for their poor purchasing power. And by giving 250 rupees to the MNRG workers, we cannot increase their purchasing power to reach the level of those who are buying two-wheelers, four-wheelers. With that money, they can buy only, their day-to-day provisions and one or two sarees. That's all. Not more than that. So that purchasing power only that much. If we convert the villagers, if we convert the farmers into industrial workers in the form of food processing industries, automatically their monthly income will be increased, and they will take care of themselves. They will take care of themselves. So after some time, after 10 or 15, 20 years, MNRG program can be wind up. No use for nobody will go for that type of work. That government, definitely government should think of that one. In this way, we can stop migration of rural, workers from villages to urban areas. This is one suggestion to create employment opportunities in the rural areas. Another suggestion, it is a must. It is a must for government of India. No option. Giving 20 lakhs, 20 lakh crore program package program. These are all temporary measures. And it's not very few amount. It's very good amount, but these are all not sufficient for creating employment for educated, engineers in urban areas. For a simple example, I can tell you, this suggestion I always, I used to keep on insisting. In 1950s, India's economic conditions and China's economic conditions more or less same only. In India, 52% of people are living below the poverty line. In China, also nearly 51% of people are living below the poverty line. It's 1979, China opened its borders for foreign direct investment. 1991, we opened our borders. After opening its borders for foreign direct investment in the name of special economic zone, China attracted more FDI, more foreign exchange reserve. With that money, 2010 itself, it introduced a bullet train. China introduced a bullet in 2010 itself. And you see, we are telling that ours is the fifth largest economy in the world. In another term, purchasing power parity criteria, ours is the third largest economy in the world. And we are going to reach 5 trillion economy. What's the use of this 5 trillion economy? China's foreign exchange reserve alone more than 3 trillion. See, China's reserve, I am telling foreign exchange reserve alone 3 trillion. And we are telling we are going to reach 5 trillion economy. Just imagine that this way, we cannot boost our economy. And no way we can equalize ourselves with China or even South Korea or America. But we can equalize that, equalize with these countries if India introduces bullet train scheme. People can say that where is money? No problem. I tell you a suggestion for that. If India introduced a bullet train scheme from Chandigarh to Trivandrum or Kanyakumari, and one scheme, a best scheme, I can tell you, and connect this main line with Chennai or Bangalore or Mumbai or Bhubaneswar or all the in between cities, major, the capitals with this main line, and from Chandigarh, from Calcutta to Jodhpur or Udaipur, you can have another bullet train scheme. If this type of bullet train scheme is implemented as a part of infrastructure development program, and also 810 highways from Kashmir to Kanyakumari or Kashmir to Trivandrum, and connecting all these lines by 810 highways. If these two schemes implemented, I can tell you how many industries will grow in India. Cement industry will grow because we need very huge amount of cement for this bullet train scheme program and highway 810 highways. Cement industry will grow, steel industry will grow, iron industry will grow, plastic industry will grow, computer software industry will grow, industry will grow. Even just imagine that core industry will, stone core industry will grow. These are the main sectors in Indian economy. Whenever you look at, India's, why India's GDP is going down, and government of India is to say that this sector reduction is took place. This sector reduction took place. This sector, why reduction took place? Because no demand for those products, no demand for iron and steel, no demand for no demand for coal, no demand for plastic items, no demand for minerals, no demand. Why? How we can expect a demand suddenly? Introduce this type of bullet train scheme from all over India, 810 highways. Within 8 years, I can tell you, even even let the government introduce that program within 8 years. Cement industry, steel industry, iron industry, plastic industry, computer software industry, electrical, electronics industry, everything will grow. Why we have to import helicopters from Russia? Why we have to import helicopters from France? Why we have, even Kerala, the metro train coaches are imported from France. Just imagine that after 73 years of independence, after British left very good rail network system in India. At present we are importing coaches from France. Just imagine that in 2005 Knowledge Commission, even our current our former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh only brought that Knowledge Commission, and the Knowledge Commission has clearly stated that 70% of our engineers are not eligible or not suitable or not have required qualifications to be appointed in government services or private industries or private corporations, something like that. We just imagine that most of the self-financing engineering institutions are owned by political parties or political party people associated with political persons. And they only running all these self-financing institutions, and the students who are studying those institutions, if we say they are not eligible or they are not having record qualifications, then whose fault? Then, okay, forget about that chapter. Now I'm coming to that one. If we introduce this type of bullet train scheme, 4-lane highway, all industries will be developed. All industries will get an opportunity to be developed, like South Korea or China or America. Then what will be the result? All our engineers will get job opportunities. Civil engineers will get job opportunities. Electrical, electronics engineers will get job opportunities. Computer software engineers will get job opportunities. Those who are studying polymer science will get job opportunities. Mechanical engineering will get job opportunities. Then what else we needed? What else we needed? Purchase. Why we are purchasing? People have no purchasing power. People have no purchasing. How long you can say that for 73 years you are telling that people have no purchasing power? When last, after this government became power, people have no purchasing. What purchase? How we can create purchasing power? Create this type of massive investment infrastructure programs. Automatically that will boost the industries. Automatically that will create employment opportunities for our uneducated, skilled engineers. Once they all employed, just how many lakhs engineers are there in India without employment opportunities? They introduce this type of programs, everybody will get job opportunities. If everybody get job opportunities, we just see how many cars will be buy. They are going to buy in India. How many two-wheelers they will buy? Just to see that why we have to give separate package for automobile sector. You boost this infrastructure development area, automatically that will create employment opportunities, that will create employment, income opportunities. Automatically, the people who are getting employment opportunities to go for two-wheelers, they go for four-wheelers, they go for buying houses, they go for buying flats, they will go for tour travel, everything will be will be activated. Everything will be activated. Automatically, that will solve automobile sector problem, that will solve the real estate problem, that will solve the hotel industry, tourism, travel industry, tourism industry. Everything will be, boosted. Just imagine that. It's not imaginary figure. I am telling that it is the reality. I am not telling something which is unreal to for us. This is what this vision only China government got before. I mean 1910. In 1979. How to make, how to bring employment opportunities for the Chinese people through foreign direct investment. They achieved it. And how to get more for, how to earn more foreign exchange reserve through special economic zones. They achieved it. Then how to make use of that foreign exchange reserve they received through, I mean, foreign direct and the special economic zones. They invested very they invested very huge amount of money for infrastructure development. And is just to see that that is the development. That is the development. Just we are 79 and 91 is a matter of only around 12 years only. Matter of 12 years. Whether within 12 years difference is that between China and India opening our economy. But we opened our economy in 1991. Now only we are talking about privatization. Now people are making all the human privatization, privatization, privatization. We adopted the policy in 1991 itself. Then what is the use of talking about privatization? You privatize, that's not the problem. But what you have to do, you have to attract more FDI. You have to attract more FDI, and through FDI, we have to go for more industrialization programs and more employment generation programs. For that, only 2005, Government of India introduced that. Our Manmohan Singh government only introduced that special economic zone program. Unfortunately, most of the political parties are opposed to that program. And here also, I feel that something, I mean, they don't want to see that the farmers are developed. Once farmers are selling their land for industrialization purpose, they will become very rich. In the case of highway program also, I feel something, I mean, the intention of the people who are opposing the program may be different. They don't want to see that farmers are getting more benefits, are getting more compensation, something like that. But whatever it may be, again, government has to revive the same program. I'm not telling about new program. Same program, special economic zone program should be, I mean, reformulated, and it would be reintroduced in India once again. Forget about the acquiring farmlands. Okay, we don't want farmlands, but at least the areas wherever lands are available, that area can be acquired for, I mean, industrialization purposes. For this purpose, one more suggestion I would like to suggest that at least Government of India earmark 1% of our forest land for industrialization purpose. And now people will tell that 1% of the land cannot be converted to forest. Forest land cannot be converted to industrialization purpose. But there are so many countries without forest also in the world. There are so many countries, they have no forests. And in our case, we have enough forest. More than 17% area is the forest cover only. At least 1% of our India's forest cover can be converted for industrialization purpose, and also can be distributed among the landless people. These type of programs, bullet train program, I mean, a massive for 8 lanes highway program, and this 1% of forest land for industrialization programs. And this type of programs will bring prosperity to the Government of India, prosperity to the, I mean, workers, prosperity to the regional balanced development of India. That way only we can create employment opportunities for the educated urban people. Actually, these schemes, industrialization program and bullet train scheme program, and this program I'm telling only for educated engineers only, not for the rural people. I mean, those are working the MNRG program. For rural areas, I already suggested food process industries. For urban people, we should go for only bullet train scheme program. This type of massive infrastructure investment program will boost all the industries, all the industry. I'm not telling only one industry. Because the bullet train industry, only single industry will be grown. No, not like that. It will boost, it will give, it will activate all the industries in India. Then automatically our economy, not a 5 trillion economy, our economy will become a 25 trillion economy within 15 years. It will reach, I mean, 35 trillion economy, I mean, in the future. Then only we can claim that ours is the powerful, third largest economy in the world. Ours is the fifth largest economy in the world. We can proud of telling that we are better than China, we are better than America, we are better than South Korea. This way we can claim. Otherwise, going to be 5 trillion economy, and without this type of, I mean, investment program, the employment solution program will not help us. It will not help us. This 20 lakh crore program also, It's only a temporary measures for one or two. Madam already made it clear that it may be for 5 years, 6 years, something like. Because 5 years, no tax means automatically we can understand that it's program for 5 years. And another important now question will come, and how we can get money for this mass investment program. That point will coming. At the time when Madam was presenting her this package, she told one aspect. The state governments can avail nearly 3% of GDP can borrow, and state governments can borrow 3% of GDP from central government for certain programs. And so far, Madam made it clear that, but so far only 14% of that eligible amount availed by the state governments. Just to see that 5% means nearly 10 lakh crores. Each state is supposed to avail 10 lakh crore from that eligible amount. Each state, I am telling that each state is eligible to avail 10 lakh crores from the government of India for certain programs. But actually, most of the governments did not borrow that money. Only 14% of the eligible amount utilized by the governments, state governments. Now that money is with the central government. That money is with the central government. Now you see that. Yes, sir, coming, sir. Final point.
Professor, okay, professor. Because we have only 2 minutes.
Yeah. Now that money with the central government. Now what states should do? They should avail that money, and the eligible amount. That amount is now increased to 5% of GDP. That money state government should borrow. Every state should construct a link line, bullet train scheme from Chandigarh to Kanyakumari at Trivandrum. That money will solve most of the problems, and this way we can create employment opportunities for rural people as well as urban people, and the infrastructure wise India will be very rich. Social development is India will be very rich. Then only we can be proud of telling that ours will be a third largest economy in the world, something like that. And I hope that we will achieve it. But if we do like this, we can achieve it earlier. That's all. And with this, I am coming final concluding my talk. I am once again I would like to express my sincere thanks to Professor Sadasivam for having given me this very good opportunity to share with you the idea what he arranged. I hope that I shared some views which is not directly related to our COVID problem, and sorry for that. But what I want to convey, I am conveyed. I hope that you followed. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. As the time is very limited, now the session is over to Dr. Geeta for proposing vote of thanks. Madam, Geeta,
okay,
madam.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Madam. Yes, sir.
Resource person of this session, Dr. P. Arinachalam, organizers of this webinar, and dear participants. I am just touching up. I thank the Social Transformation Center, Madurai Kamaraj University, for giving me this opportunity to express my gratitude on this occasion. I formally thank all the organizers for presenting this seminar. This has provided a great opportunity for all of us to discuss on the topic, which is important and relevant in this scenario. The title, COVID-19 and Social Security Measures for Unorganized Workers in India, is in itself is very effective, and it is ought to be discussed by the academicians like us. The deliberations by the resource person was informative with so much of facts and solutions, thought-provoking and insightful. I think it is a great intellectual exercise for all of us, the participants. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your informative presentation.
Thank you.
I would express my sincere gratitude to our Vice Chancellor, Dr. N. Krishnan, who was the brain behind this Social Transformation Center. He used to encourage to transform the learned information knowledge for the welfare of the society. Thank you, sir, for this constant support and encouragement, and special thanks for inaugurating this webinar. I thank our registrar for his support and encouragement for conduct of this program. I thank the coordinator, Dr. Sadasivam, for organizing this program, which is really a timely one, and giving me the opportunity to propose vote of thanks. And most important of all, I thank all our participants for their active participation. We are getting so much of chats every now and then, and each and every information that is being given by professor resource person is being discussed in the chats. You can go through it, and because of them this is possible. Thank you one and all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
I take this opportunity to extend my special thanks to my PhD scholar, Mr. Hussain Alais Yaqub Khan, who has made all arrangement for having this webinar.
Yes, sir. I also
Professor?
thank for his technical support.
Yeah. Professor
I am also
Arunachala, thank you very much.
yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Participants, thank you.